UCL Action for Palestine held a 34-day-long occupation that ended about a week and a half ago. This is our first action coming out of that occupation, and it's really just to make it clear that we are not going to stop disrupting campus. We're not going to stop our protests, and especially today in solidarity with the American students at Columbia and at many other American universities who are showing the same bravery in disrupting their campuses, their universities, and protesting. We want to show that there are parallels. They are doing what we are doing, and we are all doing it for the same reason, which is to center Palestinians and to bring attention to the suffering that they're facing at the hands of Israeli occupation, colonialism, and genocide.
There was an occupation here which went for 34 days. I visited that and gave a talk at the occupation. It was a really great atmosphere. It was a peaceful atmosphere. It was an atmosphere that was friendly. It was in solidarity. And there were some fascinating talks, some really good actions came out of that. And obviously you can see from today that action is going to keep going.
So UCL has multiple research partnerships and collaborations with arms companies like BAE Systems, Elbit Systems, Lockheed Martin, and they are also most recently announced a partnership with Tel Aviv University. Tel Aviv University, like many other Israeli universities, has extremely close ties to the Israeli military. They even helped them to develop an ethical code which claimed that operations leading to 90% civilian casualties are legitimate and proportionate. So that's sort of what we're dealing with. These are the kinds of ties that UCL has that's making them complicit in Israel's genocide of Palestinians.
Well, I teach Latin American history, and one of the things I teach is that historically governments have been terrified of students. Students have been able to shut down cities, have been able to challenge governments, and governments, especially the government in this country over the last 20 years, have made it harder and harder for people to protest. There's also other pressures on students now. They're having to pay a lot of money to be here. It costs them a lot of money to be here. They rightly have a fear of being kicked out of university or whatever, but they're still putting themselves on the line for an issue that they believe strongly in.
The repression that we've seen on UK campuses, UCL specifically, has been crazy. They've been taking more of a silencing approach, so there's been an increased securitization of campuses. Even today, there is so much security, so many different levels of security all around it, all the entrances, not letting people in. Minoritized students, vulnerable students have been targeted by security during, before, and after actions. Unfortunately, I think that's something that's going to continue, especially with what we're seeing in America with the sort of police violence and threats of arrest and actual arrest that students have been facing. I feel like that's only going to come more and more here. But the response of the students that are organizing is that we are going to continue organizing the way that we have been doing. We're going to keep disrupting. The police, the government, university managers can do absolutely nothing to stop our legitimate, moral and growing movement.
There have been directives from all over higher education in the UK that we shouldn't be too politicised, that we shouldn't be too one-sided. And of course, when you look at what's going on in Palestine, if you both sides it, then of course you're letting a genocide happen. So I think people recognise what's going on, but they're up against all kinds of bureaucratic and management structures in being able to give their voice.
Dr. Refaat was a poet, an educator, a professor. He also was a UCL alumnus. He studied his master's in comparative literature from UCL in 2007, I believe, and he was killed in a targeted assassination in December of 2023, which was part of a bigger targeted assault on Gaza's education system, with over 200 educators being killed, with 80% of schools being partially or fully destroyed, and with every single university being completely destroyed. So as students, we are horrified by these numbers, by these statistics, and as people who are part of the same institution that Dr. Refaat was a part of, it's our duty to hold this university to account for its complicity in the Israeli genocide against Palestinians.
Dr. Refaat's legacy is really important here. The student centre is named after him. Here it was a great deal of sadness when we found out that he had been killed, and then today we found out that members of his family have been killed. That legacy has been reflected today in some of the speeches, the reading out of his poem. He's someone that UCL students are proud to have as an alumnus, and it's someone who will continue to remember and to celebrate.
This occupation that we did, it went on for 34 days, so over a month. Goldsmiths in London also held an occupation that went on for over a month. We're seeing other universities in the country like Bristol and Leeds and Warwick most recently just began an encampment. So university students in the UK have been showing out. We have been protesting, and we're going to continue doing it. So the people that are saying that we're not, they're clearly not paying attention to the right places and to the right people.